Thanks, Chuck. Really appreciate it. Thanks to all of you for being here, and thanks to these panelists. I thought we'd just do a quick start by way of introduction. I thought I'd have each of these guys talk for a minute or so about who they are, what they're responsible for, and then we can jump in. Chuck introduced me. The reason Chuck asked me to do this is because in 2011, I had an idea for an app. And the idea was it was an app called Happy Nester. And it was all about services for home furniture, how to find the right furniture for your house, how to get access to interior designers. And I thought it was brilliant. It had multiple sources of revenue that would feed into this app. I got to the point where I was going to go out and speak to investors about it, and ultimately, it never left really my brain. It didn't monetize. It didn't even get to a reasonably good wireframe. So, who else would be better to moderate this than someone who's been, seen the how difficult it can be to be successful in this space. So that's why I'm here. But these guys have probably more appropriate, better experience than I do.
That's an awesome story.
Yeah, thanks.
I'll start. Hey, friends. My name is Mike Brooks. I'm the SVP of Revenue at WeatherBug. I manage direct sales, programmatic sales, BD, partnerships, basically all business that comes into WeatherBug. WeatherBug is an app that connects with 10 million users every month in the US. We are, if you think about our business, we're very heavy on the mobile app side. We're about 95% of our revenue comes through mobile app. But I think we're going to talk about a couple interesting things today, like directions we're going, world of OTT, et cetera, and kind of where we're expanding the brand as a publisher. And from that, we're a small team, right? So a lot of the things I'm going to talk about today are coming from a position of resource constraint, not necessarily money, just people. So I'm going to talk about some of the decisions we make. We've had a very successful business so far. We're about 30 people, 22 are engineers. So we're very compact on the business side. And we're going to explain some of the decisions we have to make around that and some of the things that have gotten us there. But even in the past 6 months, the revenue run rate has increased 50%. We know how our competitors monetize and we crush them. So we're really happy to share some of the things that we can do that go well. So any questions? Happy to hang.
Hello, I'm Ashleigh Rankin with Reddit. I manage our performance sales team on the East Coast. Our performance sales team looks after primarily DR advertisers, so a lot of app install campaigns, but really the crux of what we manage is people who are looking for stuff, past reach, past impressions, installs, post installs. Reddit is a network of communities. Our team looks after a bunch of advertisers who, like I said, are looking for post install metrics, and I think that's it.
Hey, how's it going? Rick Welch, Flipboard. For those of you unfamiliar with Flipboard, we are a content aggregation and distribution app. So we have integrations with over 3,000 different publishers worldwide. Every one of the big names you can imagine, Hearst, Condé Nast, Vice, Vox, etc. I run programmatic operations and sales. So it's kind of a hybrid position, general management, I guess. So yeah, working with the sales team, making sure they understand ad tech, programmatic, et cetera, going on ride-along sales meetings with them. It's a global role. Flipboard, again, has integrations with publishers worldwide. We have over 100 million users globally, about 20 million or so in the US, give or take. Similar to Mike, we have resource constraints. I think a lot of people can I guess, feel the same way, but we have about 120 employees at this point, probably about 50% engineering. Programmatic is a lean team of 4 people at this point. So it's been trying to divide it down the middle, 2 sales, 2 ops. But yeah, trying to get a lot done with a little is something we have going on as well.
Is the 4 of those, that's the whole global team? Or is that just US?
Yeah, we have a seller in Europe, programmatic sales guy in Europe. I have an open headcount in the US right now, and I can't seem to find anyone. So if you know someone, let me know. And then I have a programmatic ops guy who came from MoPub, who was a Steel, who knows all this stuff inside and out, workhorse. And then I have a contractor in India who is awesome. A lot of bang for the buck there. But yeah, trying to get a lot done with a little is, it's not Condé Nast, where I came from before, which was just, whatever. We got resources, it's fine.
Cool. Hey, I thought it would be a good place to start. This is all about how apps make money. Each of your businesses is uniquely different, started from different places. I know for Ashleigh and Reddit in January of this year, you guys really launched your performance business and launched a CPC product. Flipboard uniquely, with Mike McHugh at the helm, has had a pretty unique point of view about advertising on the platform, and really has, publicly been, saying we want to reform advertising. We want to do it differently. That's shifting, and I think 3 years ago, really building out the programmatic offering there.
It's a great dream.
It's a great dream.
It's challenging to do custom and cool stuff in programmatic, though.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I'll try not to ramble here, but even it goes back to the balance between I think the need for engineering to drive the business, because all of your businesses depend on the consumer experience first, but they also are dependent on the realities of the revenue coming into source and fund the engineering practice and the progress there. So anyway, I wanted to just start by grounding everyone, and maybe you could take a minute and talk about how each of your businesses makes money. What are the primary sources of revenue, and maybe even how that's changed in recent times.
Wonderful. I'll lead off. So right now, if you look at all the ways WeatherBug makes money, I'm going to break some of the advertising chunks down, but for the most part, we're like 99% advertising, pretty much 100% advertising revenue. The biggest chunk is programmatic. So we have billions of impressions a month at the 320 by 50, 300 by 250 level, all in mobile app, split iOS and Android. But I would say programmatic is probably, I don't know, of dollar amount, at least 60% of our overall business. We then, a year ago, started a content distribution partnership as a publisher for Taboola. We were one of the first mobile apps to do that, and that has been significantly successful for us, and I would say that's close to 25, even 30% of our revenue. And then direct sales for us is interesting, and this is a conversation I love having with these two. Our direct sales team went through some crazy ups and downs. When I inherited it, it was a team that was at 6. 5 were fired the day before I joined, and there was one, and it was like, here, do something with this. And luckily, the one was stellar. He had been doing it for 15 years. He has basically rebuilt the direct sales team, bringing in things like video publishing, like us be able to create custom content, things like that were kind of beyond WeatherBug's reach beyond, before. So we've actually seen incredible growth in our direct sales business because of a focus on ad products. So, that's still maybe no more than 10, 15% of bottom line of top line revenue. But that we have seen a significant growth there. We have hired, we have another open head, I would say counter to a lot of what our competitive set is seeing with a decrease in direct sales. Right. We're also working with a smaller number, but it's growing pretty significantly. So that's been awesome. And then the last bucket is data. And we historically have not sold data. Right. And that's a very hot topic in our world. If you look at our competitive set too, AccuWeather got in trouble for some mobile reveal stuff. Weather Channel's getting sued by the city of LA. There's a huge privacy wave coming. And we have to be incredibly tight. And we are incredibly tight, and we have not, to this point, done any of those types of deals. I don't know if we're going to get into that kind of topic today, but that's one of the things that we spend a ton of time thinking about is where do you draw the line of who owns that and the consumer's relationship. And at the end of the day, we're the ones holding the bag because if someone leaves, that's the ARPU that we don't see. So that's kind of where I would say the growth is on the direct sale side and programmatic and Taboola. Those things are all growing, but that's how they kind of break down. The biggest chunk for us is programmatic.
Can you just explain the Taboola relationship quickly?
Sure. So we're basically just one of the first publishers to use content in stream from, there's that competitive set of Outbrain and Rev Content, et cetera. We pioneered some of their SDK build out with them. So we were one of the first pubs, and it's basically bringing in third-party content and some advertising in stream at the bottom of our scroll. We also monetize differently than a Flipboard, where there is a bottom to WeatherBug.
Right.
So versus other infinite feed apps, that was a big opportunity for us. But that's been super successful.
Okay. Cool. Ashleigh, do you want to?
Yeah, for Reddit, our primary business is through ads. What I meant to say earlier was that the performance products really only started to exist as of January this year, and so my team only really started to exist as of January this year. We released a bunch of products, CPC and everything, and really, although Reddit has existed for about 13, 14 years, our ads business has only really come up, especially in the performance side, over the last few years. So that's our primary revenue stream. And then we are trying to diversify a bit. I'm not sure if people are familiar with Reddit coins, but we're definitely putting some effort into Reddit coins. And also in July, we released community awards. And then obviously there's Reddit Premium, which is for users who don't want to see ads. But I don't know why you wouldn't want to see Reddit ads. They're really cool.
How much does that cost?
The coins?
No. Well, I would love to learn a little bit more about the economics of the coins, but how much does it cost to be an unpaid or a non-ad Reddit subscriber? Do you know what that subscription rate is?
$5.99 a month.
Okay.
I just checked before I came here.
Good for you. That's incredible.
And you saw the revenue diversification point. You're like, all right, maybe I should look into this. I did the same thing.
Did my research.
Checked into what our setup was, but similar to both of them, we're largely advertising based, right? It's probably about 90% of our revenue at this point. We have diversified a little bit recently, and we do have an e-commerce business. A lot of people come to Flipboard. It's passion based, it's interest based, right? When you're in Flipboard and you set up your personalized feed, it's what are you interested in, and then what are the subcategories you're interested in, right? Like, I'm interested in technology, but specifically cryptocurrency and drones, right? So because of that specificity, I guess, there is chatter in the social aspect of Flipboard, and there are opportunities for e-commerce. So we're trying to grow that business, but we are largely ad based. I'll break it down like Mike did of the advertising business. When I started about 3 years ago, we were 90% insertion order based, direct sales, and 10% through Facebook Audience Network. We've diversified since then. We have Rubicon, Google, Amazon, the usual suspects of monetization partners, some mobile-specific ones, MoPub, InMobi, trying to strike a balance between having, every single ad tech partner out there and, being wholly reliant on Google, somewhere in the middle, right? All the partners with unique demand, I think we've kind of struck a relationship with at this point. Again, we started 90-10. We're probably almost 50-50 at this point, insertion order versus programmatic. So in 3 years, a lot has changed. Our sales team went from probably 20 people globally to about 8 at this point. So we are relying a bit more on the open exchange, indirect relationships, curated marketplaces, all that kind of stuff. So there is a changing in the tide going on with us. We are looking at data. It's a tricky subject, just like with anyone else. With us, it's more about, what's the value of it, right? Like as a publisher, what's the value of knowing what somebody read? With us, we think it's a little deeper because we have those 3,000 different publishers working with us. So I can say, this is what you read across, 500 different titles as opposed to one specific title. So we know there's value in the data. The question is, when you talk to an agency holding company and they say, give me your data, it's the same answer I had when I was at Condé Nast, right? It's, well, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to pay me for it? And how am I going to get it over to you, right? Connection-wise. So the data thing's still a little bit of a question mark. We work with Oracle Data Cloud, BlueKai, LiveRamp, the usual suspects for targeting on our platform. Now the question is, can we make that data portable and make money off of it. So that's another thing we're kind of toying with. But obviously GDPR and CCPA are big on our minds. I moderated, well, I didn't moderate, I participated. I refused to moderate on this one, on privacy at a conference recently. Super exciting topic, but good attendance. It seemed like this is a hot topic, the whole privacy thing. But
Everyone's scared.
Yeah.
Everyone's watching. So
yeah, the IAB just had an event yesterday on it. But yeah, we're 90% advertising, 10% e-com. We're considering a premium version. We're toying with it, right? But
Can I make a suggestion there? Because there's one thing I actually wanted to get to that I missed about WeatherBug, a huge mistake that we made. So we have always pretty much, the web presence was founded in 2000. So it's been around for 19 years. We didn't really have a paid product or a subscription product until a couple years ago. And we started by just putting a paid product in the store. Huge mistake. I cannot think of a reason today why you would create a paid app and not a subscription app, but we have an incredible amount of technical debt today because of that decision. So if you're at this position, and I hope I didn't cut off one of the future questions.
It is, but it's okay.
Yeah, I think that as we're looking at what our setup looks like, still the vast majority is coming through advertising. But we have these folks. We literally made our paid app. We put it up to $20 in the store to get people to stop buying, and they haven't. So we still have a problem to fix.
Right.
Well, I guess there's still some opportunity there, I guess. But to understand the subscription business right now, we have to continue building for people who gave us $5 once, and that is frustrating for a tech team. So I would say focusing on a subscription over...
The lifetime value still doesn't work, is
Right.
what you're saying. Got it.
Right. Well, the LTV doesn't work, but also it's really hard to motivate a team to help a user who is never going to make you a dime for the rest of their lives.
Interesting.
It's a good one. Actually, when Jesse from Jump Ramp was up here earlier, he mentioned monetizing users. There's a pretty strict rule apparently at Jump Ramp, which is the D30. If you can't get to a positive ROAD after 30 days, if the user's not paid for what it costed you to acquire them, then that's not a good thing. Is there a model that you guys use? Like, how long did it take WeatherBug to realize, we shouldn't have invested all that money in that pay once app? It should have been a subscription model. Is there something that you guys do to evaluate good revenue versus bad revenue?
It's like partnership and risk. I would say one of the places WeatherBug has excelled in the past year or so has been the partnership side, where we sit down and have serious, deep conversations about things like privacy. If we're talking about user acquisition, yes, we have a formula. We're very lucky in that we monetize really well, and as a weather app, our cost of acquisition is really low. So as opposed to if there are folks in this room, and I know Jesse's one of them, doing user acquisition over things like games, that margin's really tight. Yeah. Lucky for us, it's looser. Again, more opportunity. But yes, it's the cost of acquisition versus lifetime value. And I think one of the downsides is people have a very good understanding of that on the user acquisition side, not so much on the pub side. So pubs don't understand as much how much individual users are making for them, which is something I think is going to change. But I think when we look at partnerships, it's about long-term risk and someone that we see as being a part of our business in 5 years.
Okay.
User acquisition and...
I mean, so we have one user acquisition person in San Francisco. We definitely have an LTV model. It's not my team and not really my wheelhouse anymore.
You happen to have a little bit of experience on it elsewhere, though.
A little bit.
Yeah.
What are you referring to?
Well, you were running user acquisition for Uber, et cetera, and a lot of big folks at through Fetch, and you have been a resource for me over my mobile career on exactly that equation. So, not sure if you didn't want to talk about it here, and sorry to blow up your spot in front of everyone.
Thanks for that.
But that math I know is super important, and you taught most of it to me. That's why.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I think in my previous life, I was at an agency. I was on the buy side, and a lot of what we were trying to do there was obviously, again, measure post-install metrics, measure subscriptions, measure first trips. A lot of what we saw there was that we needed to measure incrementality. So I think Something that I'm really interested in the UA side is how people measure incrementality versus specific ad dollar against a metric. I think that's a hot topic for next year.
I think we could do a much better job of it. Not to knock our UA guy out west. He's got his hands full, particularly with competition, right? Like, it's no secret that Apple News, Google has a product. There's a Chinese company that launched a product called Smart News. So we're facing increased competition, right? And we're facing, challenges with publishers, a few years ago, not as much anymore, but saying, hey, I distribute my content through Facebook, or I distribute my content elsewhere. So, we're not as, invincible, I would say, as Flipboard once was, 7 years ago or 6 years ago. So the user acquisition guy has his hands full with trying to, keep our user base steady. Again, we have over 100 million users globally, which is awesome. So there's a lot of people using the app. But we do rely on some strategic partnerships pretty heavily, right? Like, Samsung distributes our app. So there's something called Briefing in Samsung, which is effectively like Apple News. It comes pre-packaged or bundled with your Samsung device, and that is powered by Flipboard. And that's a huge percentage of our users. So, stuff like that. We don't do user acquisition, which people can't wrap their heads around when I talk to people in the mobile space, right? Like, I have so many vendors coming to me saying, I can drive users for Flipboard. I'm like, that's great. I don't have budget for that, and I don't do that. So,
Right.
But evaluating the value of our users is something that they've done on the direct IO side. And in programmatic, I've noticed conflicting trends, actually. So the users that it's kind of like a Condé Nast, right? There's a stickiness to a user. And explain to someone who's in leadership that, hey, the users that spend the most time on the app are actually the least valuable in programmatic. The people who are 30 minutes deep into their session, I can't freaking monetize them. I don't really have much interest in those users. And they will say that those are our best users. But from my perspective, our Briefing Samsung users who see 2 ads are my most valuable users, because people will bid a lot more on that first impression or earlier session. So there's kind of some weird contradictions that seem a little bit like, I don't know, just strange.
Yeah, it's a good segue, I think. The question I have is, where do you invest in revenue growth? Is it new users to grow the scale of the opportunity? Is it, for Flipboard, it sounds like it's not driving deeper engagement and more time in the app necessarily on a user level, but there's also Mike, we talked about internationalization. It's a tough one. When we spoke, I know you guys are dealing with the sort of international expansion as well. You mentioned smart news in China. So where do you invest in finding opportunities to create more revenue coming into the company?
So I would actually say, depending on where you are in your app lifecycle, tools are incredibly important. So if you are not looking at your app store optimization, you need to be. If you're not looking at product analytics, you should be. If you're not looking at in-app messaging and mobile marketing automation and those types of tools, those were, I think when I got to WeatherBug, I had this vision that is all about dumping money into UA, and I ran the preload business at Verizon beforehand, and I can get us a great deal, and let's just go. And what I realized is I think everyone underestimates how big the hole is in their bucket, right? Because it's about filling up the bucket, and it's about the bucket falling out as you don't do a good enough job of retention.
I use a leaky bucket all the time. That's why I'm smiling.
So I think our bucket was much leakier than we thought. So I would say taking a good holistic view of both your user acquisition metrics and your retention metrics is the only way to really be successful. And for us, we spent a lot more time and money shoring those up, and we have seen significant growth because of that.
Yeah, I would definitely echo the tools side. I think from the performance advertising side with Reddit, I can definitely see next year that we're going to be able to grow our business when we get some table stakes items, honestly, that we don't currently have. Like at the minute, we don't have postbacks, which is kind of a big deal for app install advertisers. So I think our main growth for our team specifically is going to be getting a lot of these products and really refining the kind of tools that we have and the products that we have. For the Reddit side, in terms of users, I think there's a lot of things that they're trying to do, a bunch of different product features. We released the Reddit Public Access Network, which users are going crazy over, which is really exciting. So I think really trying to grow both sides of it at the same time is going to be key for our success.
Cool. I just want to, can you explain postbacks? Because I don't know if everyone knows what that is.
Oh, man. Sorry, not speaking.
I don't know. Maybe everybody does, but...
So we have integrations with all of the mobile measurement partners. And at the minute, if you're in the Reddit ads dashboard, you can see impressions and clicks, but you can't see anything past that. So we're working with all of the mobile measurement partners to ensure that you can see installs and post-install metrics within our dashboard, and then we'll build auto-optimization tools to make sure that we're getting to the right metric that our DR advertisers want.
It's challenging. That's what stops a lot of people from spending in app, right? That I've found over time. I get a lot of brands that say like, well, I can only measure this deep and app doesn't drive X, Y, or Z. And I'm like, it does drive X, Y, and Z. You just can't attribute it to me, which is extremely frustrating. So
and people are lazy. People are lazy. If they don't see it in the dashboard, they don't think it does anything. The amount of times that we have to speak to clients and say, can you please just look at your data, like come back to us? And they're like, oh, wow, you guys are performing really well.
Associated with it, I drove those. Yeah, so we have that challenge a lot. And on the branding side as well, it's not just performance-based, right? It's not just install-based, but it can be a lot of other metrics that are incompatible with mobile app, which is frustrating because time spent in mobile app is here, and dollars are here because advertisers and agencies say they can't properly measure it. And that's just like the most frustrating thing because the users are there, it's the right users, it does perform, you just can't track it. That's more frustrating than if it didn't perform. You know what I mean? So anyway, sorry, I digress. But as far as like a growth perspective, one of the things Flipboard didn't do years ago was make sure that it was interacting with the rest of the ecosystem. And we had a strategic relationship with Twitter. Our CEO was on the board. So your people's Twitter posts could fall into your Flipboard feed, which was cute and interesting, but not necessarily a needle mover. What we were lacking was kind of like shareability, I guess. So when you take an article that you found on Flipboard and you share it to your friends, it would force them to try and download the app. And this was a little bit of a frustrating user experience if you just wanted to view that particular individual article. So you see that with Yelp and Pinterest, right? When someone would send something to you, if you didn't have Yelp or Pinterest, it would force you into the store, which is not a great UX. So we're willing now to let people view Flipboard articles on desktop or mobile web. With that, we want shareability, right? So you can actually, on a lot of our publisher partner sites, there's now a Flipboard button alongside Pinterest, Twitter, and all those others, which sounds small, but it's huge, right? Is the fact that the little Flipboard logo is now on all of these different publishers' sites. It makes us more relevant and so on and so forth. But yeah, these network effects is what our growth guy is calling them. The ability for you to share something properly now, and then that person shares it, and the whole snowball kind of thing is our strategy for the next couple of years. If it works, we're going to grow exponentially. Yeah. If it doesn't, our user growth guy will just, we'll just be like, well, he's crazy. I don't know.
Was the structure of that sharing experience driven by the revenue structure for the company, the monetization model at the time when that was happening? So it was a social aggregator was really how Flipboard was built. The revenue, I think, in the beginning was really driven by rev share deals with the publishers that were showing.
You know Flipboard very well.
I know a thing or two.
Yeah.
But so, it seems like that model would have been driven by the structure. Maybe technically they couldn't tie back the share to a mobile web experience if they were pushing users there versus.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
So there was a method to the madness. There were reasons why we made some of these decisions, and that was one of them. So this segues into did our business models change over the last few years? So Flipboard's model has changed. When I joined, you would click on an article, and then you would stay within Flipboard, and it would still flip like our animation, and we would kick a rev share to every single publisher. And we built a homegrown ad server and all this craziness to manage all of these individual rev shares. No offense to publishers, but let's be honest. When you're talking to a Condé versus a Hearst, they want different rev shares. They want different terms. Right. So you have to negotiate these with every single one, which is insane. I'm shocked that they were able to do this at the company before I got here. And then they got to a point where publishers said, hey, the rev share isn't enough. I want you to drive traffic to my mobile website. So we actually shifted the way the system works. When you click on an article, Flipboard essentially becomes a browser in that instance, and it's a mobile web rendering of their page, and therefore ads from their server. So it's just showing that we send them a ton of traffic. So we've actually become the #4 referral source for most publishers. We trade off with Twitter sometimes, so it's obviously Google search, then Facebook, then Twitter, then us right behind them. So that's definitely like a feather in our hat kind of thing. I think it's a nice pat on the back how much we drive traffic-wise to publishers. But the model has changed, right? And so now we're more shareable, we're more friendly with the rest of the ecosystem. And again, I have the home feeds and the categorical feeds as my inventory. When you click into an article, that's their inventory, if that makes sense.
Do you monetize that frame? Or is it just like you just get a rev share back from them on whatever happens?
So we don't get a rev share back from them at all.
Okay.
It's kind of a cost of doing business with them. We get to run their content. So it's like, thank you very much.
That's instead of the fee?
Instead of, yeah, so we used to sell all the inventory. We would kick them a rev share. Now they get to run their own ads. We run our own ads, and that's that, right? And it's just a traffic. We're sending them a ton of traffic, so they're happy with us. So it's an alternative to Facebook.
Same question to you guys. Mike hit it because I sent the questions ahead of time. But has the model changed for WeatherBug or for Reddit in the past 3 to 5 years? I think we talked. The performance model is really very new for Reddit.
Yeah, I mean, whilst Reddit again has been around for about 13 years, our performance product CPC has only really existed. Our integrations with the mobile measurement partners have only really existed for the last year or so. Prior to this, we definitely had big brand partnerships. So we still have a brand team who looks after the AMAs and the splashy takeovers and the homepage takeovers and all of that kind of stuff. And then we now have a self-serve team who looks after all of the kind of smaller advertisers who want to go into the dashboard and do their own thing. But then, yeah, definitely the changes in the way that we sell ads and the promoted posts and the CPC model has increased the way that we do business, I think, for sure. I remember literally about 5 years ago trying to buy ads on Reddit for Supercell, and it was like a post that was like a regular post on Reddit, and I had a MMP link in there, but it didn't work, and it was crazy.
Well, they were also scared about the user backlash, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one thing we have in common is Flipboard was very custom, and we were all sponsorships, and now we're more of a barbell. I think the Tim Armstrong thing.
Yeah, cool. I would say we're still pretty scared about user.
Yeah, about Reddit users are an intense group. That's my little brother.
I think we're nearing the end of time here. Are we there? Q&A or we're done? Q&A. Okay. I have a lot more questions. I want to make sure you guys are getting your questions answered. Anyone have anything that they want to ask these guys?
Hi, this is Abi with Verizon. As we know, the cost per install is increasing. It's now $4 or $5, per install. How do you spread your budgets from user acquisition versus user retention?
You do a deal with Samsung.
Yeah, we have a huge distribution deal with Samsung and one with T-Mobile. That's my growth strategy. You guys can take this one.
I would say it's not as I wouldn't look at it as a budget allocation, more as like a resource allocation for us, because more of the retention pieces are tools. So when you have somebody who is learning how to work within a mobile marketing automation tool and understanding how push can interact, that is incredibly valuable. UA, once you have the basis down, like you have your mobile marketing partner there and you have your, Tune, Coachava just already integrated, then you can spend. For us, I would say at the end of the day, resource-wise, it's about 60-40 UA to retention, but from a dollar spent, it's probably like 90-10 for UA because most of the dollars go into via tools for the app. We also haven't had our cost. We don't actually buy on Facebook, and we buy very little on Google, and we buy a lot. So we have been very good at finding sources outside of those. We have not seen an increase in CPI, but I know everyone else has because CPMs on Facebook have gone up and CPMs on a lot of those big folks have. So I would also say there's probably a couple buckets that are available to you outside of the major sources that can be very, very lucrative and that other people aren't up here talking on stage about. I honestly think Reddit is one of them. I think there are dozens of those opportunities out there, but it's about getting creative and asking people honestly as we're getting coffee, like, what have you tried that's awesome and what have you tried that sucks? And that is really what drives a lot of ours.
Should I just talk to you later?
Yeah, please. No, I would love to because we are very happy with the sources we use, and I think it's about going where everybody else isn't.
We have another question?
Aaron Schatz, Power Inbox. I have a question that was really focused on when WeatherBug specifically mentioned that buying the application outright is not as valuable. Do you see almost the entire ecosystem moving to just a monetization instead of like an outright purchase for a lot of things, like in general?
Yeah, I mean, if you think of, when I think of some of the leading data scientists doing what we're doing, they're focusing on subscription monetization. So I think that advertising is a great business and it's huge and it leads you down a good partnership path. But I think there are obvious headwinds in advertising that, we think about as an executive team all the time, like what happens if GDPR, CCPA goes much worse than we expect? What are the other things available to us? So for us, we have all of our focus on advertising right now. I think over the next year, we're going to see, you're going to see a BD head on my team focus specifically on the subscription piece, and that's just like really hardcore calculus. But once you get there, that revenue stream is much more valuable than advertising.
It also seems much more predictable, consumer behavior versus advertiser behavior.
Yeah,
That's it.
exactly.
Okay. I think we are wrapping up. Thank you all. Thank you guys so much. I hope this was valuable for the group here.
Great job.
And thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for moderating.